Good for you. Well, welcome to headquarters for the Department of Sanitation. And I know everybody wants an update on snow and what we're doing, but let me first address something that is much more important. What is much more important than the snow? Go Giants. Now, who here is not wearing blue in the press corps? Because if you aren't wearing blue, one would question whether or not your employer really is dedicated. I would never do that. That would be wrong, right? But we did have a little bet with the mayor of Green Bay, and I'm happy to say that we are presenting cheese curds and root beer to the Camba, Atlantic, and Houseman's Shelter so that they can enjoy it. And Joanne Opastil, come right over here and just tell everybody who's going to benefit from all of this. You're running it?
Yes, it's the Atlantic Drop-In Center, the gathering place on 2402 Atlantic Avenue, and they're having a big Giants party on Sunday, and so we will be serving this great food and root beer to all of those who come to watch the game and celebrate for the next Giant win. Right.
The next Giant win, and Jamie Lee deserves the credit for wrapping the Green Bay, I don't know, you won't call it gifts because they had to pay them, but we do like Green Bay, the city, and the mayor, and we appreciate him for being a good sport. I fortunately, because we do have a bet with the mayor of San Francisco, Mayor Lee, I will not have to demonstrate that I am a good sport because the Giants will be winning. But if they had lost or would have lose, I would be a good sport as well. And for all those people that want to know what the new bet is, sourdough and dressing one of their cable cars in Giants colors will be what we will receive. And people say, well, had the Giants lost, but you won't have this experience, what had we bet? We bet bagels and, Jamie? Bagels and we would have renamed 49th Street 49ers Street for a minute or so or something like that. Fortunately, we won't have to do that, so go Giants. Anyways, on a more mundane and less important and more fleeting subject, I'm pleased to be joined by Commissioners Doherty and Bruno and Sadiq Khan and Deputy Mayor Kaz Holloway to bring you an update on the snow that started falling in the middle of the night. Upstairs, we showed the cameras some digital maps. One of the maps is a map of the snowstorm. It's a regular radar map, and you can see that the storm is coming through, and midday should be through, and the forecast is actually for slightly warmer temperatures, and we think the snow will turn more to rain with time. The forecast for the next couple days is warm, so whatever does get on the ground should disappear within a day or so. And because it's a weekend, it has less effect on commerce and traffic, and that's good. And also has fewer cars on the street, so the plows and the salt spreaders, where they can help and where they're needed, will have less impediments. They'll be able to continue to do their job. We also showed a map that is what will be turned on in maybe closer to 4 weeks, and maybe a little bit better than that, which will let the public call up on our website a map that shows their neighborhood and color-coded each street that shows how long ago a salt spreader or a plow went down that street. And it's broken up into hours so that it's a reasonably useful thing. You've got to remember there's an enormous number of streets, an enormous number of pieces of equipment out there, so the data has to be really presented in a ways that it's useful for people. The maps that the Sanitation Department uses to control their equipment are much more detailed. It shows will show every 10 seconds where every single piece of equipment is in the city. But it's really not useful for the average person. I've looked at it, and it's really very difficult to understand. So the challenge here is not that we don't have the data. We've had the data for a long time. Not that we can't use the data to manage. If you take a look at every supervisor out there in their truck, he or she has a laptop where they can see right down to, currently it's 30 seconds, in a few weeks it'll be every 10 seconds, where each piece of equipment is. And that's what's useful to them in managing their equipment. equipment, but remember, that's not what's be useful for the average person. But I am convinced that what's going to be useful for the average person really is only a matter of weeks away. We just want to make sure that it is as complete and accurate and up to date as we can possibly make it before we present it. The map is possible because of the GPS technology that we installed last year, if you remember, in every sanitation piece of equipment. It is part of our 15-point snow action plan, which we unveiled. GPS has vastly improved communications now between plow operators and their supervisors, thanks to Verizon, who's really been the provider of the communications from the piece of equipment to our computers. So there's two things happening here. One, the GPS satellites are telling a piece of equipment, the plow or the spreader, where they are, and then over a network that Verizon's providing gets that information back to our computers, and then the Department of Information Technology and Telecommunications takes that data, and they've done a lot of work to distill it, present it, and make it in useful form. It also will let the public know, as I said, which streets are plowed and which streets were not plowed. From the point right now, the plows aren't really doing very much. It's the salt spreaders that are the most effective tool. You really have to have a number of inches of snow before a plow can get down the street and make a difference. Where you see slush, that's good because that says the salt that we put down is melting things, and in a few hours things can be better. And as looking behind you outside, you can see the snowstorm does not, at the moment anyways, seem to be as severe as was predicted. Yesterday we activated the city's severe weather website on nyc.gov. This is an online portal that we created last year to house all weather emergency information. And the city's Office of Emergency Management also issued a hazardous travel advisory. And this is one of a series of new warnings that we've created to help calibrate the city's response and clarify our message to the public about a weather event. And some people say, well, you're overreacting. Well, we try not to waste money, and we try to be prudent. We have to use what the forecasts say, but we keep updating them so that we can adjust the amount of equipment and personnel that we have out there. And if it turns out that we have too much, that's an awful lot better than if it turns out we have too little. But we are trying to strike a balance and not just throwing everything at it without regards to whether it's really needed. You should know that in advance of the snowfall, we did put our sanitation workers on a 12-hour split shift. We had nearly 1,800 on duty overnight, and after midnight we started positioning snow clearing equipment near highways and bus routes. When I went to bed last night and checked in, it hadn't started to snow, but we had the people where they needed to be. And as soon as the snow started falling around 2:15, we started using some 400 pieces of sanitation equipment to begin spreading salt to try to melt the snow before it accumulated too much. That's an awful lot better than letting it build up and then plowing it. Since this is only the second significant snowfall of the season, I'm happy to say we had what we think is an adequate amount of rock salt available around the city. In rough numbers, it was 230,000 tons. Now, a ton is 2,000 pounds. I'll leave it to you to do the math. But if you want to express it in pounds, it's an awful lot of zeros, and it's ready in case we need it. We also are ready to deploy nearly 1,500 plows to clear the streets, but as I said, we basically don't send them down the streets until there's at least 2 inches of snow. They do damage to the streets, and they really don't have anything to move to the side. Up until that point, you're probably better off at just letting traffic help the salt melt the snow. Some areas have already received, however, enough accumulation, especially in the Bronx. So you'll go up to the Bronx, you'll see a different response than in some of the other boroughs. The other plows actually are going down their streets. Some 100 additional plows and spreaders from the Department of Transportation, Environmental Protection, Parks, and the MTA have also been made available. The elements of our 15-point snow action plan have been implemented, including our tow truck task force composed of representatives of OEM, NYPD, Sanitation, and the FDNY's Emergency Medical Services. And if needed, we're ready to activate other emergency vehicle or ambulance plans, and to make sure if they got stuck, we have the trucks to pull them out, but that does not look like it's going to be a problem today. The travel advisory that we declared yesterday afternoon remains in effect today. New Yorkers should use mass transit, and there are currently no major service interruptions due to snow, but you can check with the MTA's website for the latest information. We always encourage people to use mass transit because it will help keep our streets free from traffic so we can continue to clearing the snow, and for this reason street cleaning regulations remain suspended today so that the trucks can focus on snow removal. I must say that working with the MTA is a pleasure. They are providing that alternative of mass transit. The subways and the buses are on schedule, and the coordination between the MTA and the city is as good as you would expect it to be, and I think as good as it possibly can be. Our city parks are open. Parks Department is organizing sledding and offering free hot chocolate at parks in all 5 boroughs. Go to the City Parks Department's website for more details. And if you do visit the parks, stay off the ice on lakes and ponds. Use the skating rings instead. It is just not that cold, and it has not been that cold to ensure that the ice over ponds and lakes is thick enough to walk on. Quite the contrary. Today, it's the forecast, and for the next few days, is not good for skaters, but good for the rest of us. Things are not going to be all that cold. When the snow ends, property owners, let me remind everybody, are obliged to clear the sidewalks in front of their homes and businesses. If you have a fire hydrant in front of your property, make sure it is shoveled out as well. You never know when the fire department is going to show up to help you, and they need to be able to get their hoses connected to the fire hydrants as quickly as possible. And please don't throw snow back into the streets. It just means another problem for everybody in cleaning, and don't overexert yourself. People haven't had a lot of chance to exercise and throwing snow around this winter, which is good, but it also means that people may not be in quite as good shape as they think they are, and we just don't want anybody having a heart attack or really severe sprains. Volunteers recruited by NYC Service and managed by community organizations will be out helping hundreds of qualified seniors to shovel in front of their homes. It's a nice thing to do. If you want to volunteer for a future snowfall, please go to NYC Service's homepage at nyc.gov. Helping somebody else is very satisfying, and it's a nice thing to do out in front of their homes. And you could also knock on their doors and say, look, if you need some milk or something, I'm going to the corner store. Can I pick it up for you? Someday, if you will be their age or infirmed, hopefully not, but if you are, you'd appreciate somebody doing it for you. For all the latest details on the city services and alerts, our severe weather webpage at nyc.gov will tell you. You can also sign up for nyc.gov on Gov for Notify NYC text and small alerts, or follow NYC, Notify NYC on Twitter. And for the first time, you can send a text to 311 about any snow issues. The number to text is 311-NYC or 311-692. And for example, if you see a street that has not been plowed yet and needs it, a 311 representative will make sure that information is passed along to the Sanitation Department. And if you send them a picture, it's probably easier for them to understand what really is going on. So that'd be interesting to hear from John Doherty, our great Sanitation Commissioner, on where we stand today. John?
Thank you, Mayor. I think the Mayor really laid out where the city is at this point. As he pointed out, the snow started at 2:15 this morning, and our spreaders were activated. Many of them have been sitting at their starting point from about 1 o'clock on. And as we go through the day, we'll see more and more plows out in the street. Many of them are out there now, ready to go out when they get a little bit more snow. Right now, probably the depth is about 2 inches citywide. Some places it'll be a little less than that. The main roadways all look good, slushy in some spots, and we're moving into the secondary streets right now with some of our salt spreaders to try and get some salt laid down there. And I think people will see the reaction of that as they get up and try and get out. We still warn them, try not to use your car. It's going to be slippery, particularly tonight. The temperature will drop for a period tonight, and there'll be some refreezing and some black ice possibly. So people shouldn't be misled after the storm ends that they don't have to be cautious and they try to go out with their car and not realize that there may be a potential problem out there. Thank you.
Once again, go Giants, go Big Blue, and I also want to once again thank Joanne for taking this stuff, and some people that will enjoy it. Sometimes people aren't as lucky as the rest of us. Hopefully they will see another great victory, and we'll make sure that when the sourdough bread does arrive, we put it to good use. We'll be happy to take some questions if anybody has any.
Mayor, can you talk about